Hi everybody, Tracy Brown here. I had a question come up that I thought would be really important to talk thoroughly about, and it's one of my favorite topics because I struggle with this a lot, and so it's one of my favorite topics to talk about is when you're craving food or you're staring at the cabinet, but you don't feel physically hungry, like what do you do? And so I do want to take a few minutes to be more nuanced about why it's hard to know for sure what's going on, and then basically what do we do about it before, and not trying to rush, but before I really get going, I want you to show you guys my little buddies for our talk here today, our little video, because if I don't, and if they get up and start barking or they freak out, you'll be prepared. So I have one little buddy here. I don't know if you can see him. This is Max. Hey, baby. And then I don't think you can see the other dog. I'll try. Little orange guy. Not sure if you saw him. And that's Chuck. That's my dog. The dog I'm babysitting. All right. So to get into our video. So the reasons we could be wanting food but not feel hungry has a lot to do with satisfaction. So I want to start with the thing about fullness is that you can be physically full but not satisfied. And that can happen because you're eating foods that you actually didn't want. And that could happen because you're still in kind of diet mentality, like I should be eating something. For example, for me, I love dessert. I eat dessert most days in some form. And I have since I was a kid, and I have no problem with that. But when I was in my dieting days and restricting and binging, I didn't let myself have it. I mean, I would binge on sweet foods a lot, but I never had them as like, oh, I'm having some cookies at lunch, or I'm having some pie with dinner or after dinner. That never happened. It was all or nothing, on the diet and then binging and then this constant cycle. And so it took me a while to understand, like, well, I can eat this meal, protein, carbs, and fat, and then my dessert is like a fruit. When I was totally fooling myself that I actually wanted that apple or those peaches or whatever it is, I would tell myself, this is my sweet thing. That's not what I wanted. But so I could get full. And then I'm staring at the cabinet like, okay, so I'm full, but there's Oreos there, and I shouldn't eat the Oreos because I'm full and I already had something sweet. No. You really want to like get to the place where it's like, you know what? Hi, Rachel. I am going to allow room in this meal to be part of my fullness be actually what I want. So you can be full but not satisfied. So that's actually a strategy for that predicament. If you find yourself wanting but not letting yourself have, it's a whole lot easier. And you'll actually end up in the situation where you're eating past maybe comfortable fullness when you're not letting yourself let yourself have what you want. All right. Another scenario, which actually happened to me a lot too, which I would come to the end of the day and I would eat a meal that I was pretty satisfied with, but then I would recognize like I'm full, but I still feel like this buzzing in my body that I need a little food. And then I would reflect like, okay, so what did I eat today? Like how I've been doing, like, oh, I had a skimpier breakfast than usual. And so our bodies are always going to give us signals of like needing to meet this like, this place of getting our energy needs met. And so you can be full, but still have a deficit earlier in the day, and it can cause you to be thinking about food, which is why you've heard me talk probably ad nauseum about like the more you put off eating or saving calories for the end of the day, you can get full, but it's kind of hard to stop, or you can get full, but still mentally feel like, what can I eat? Even though like this is confusing. So those are two places. And I'm going to talk about some other emotional reasons, but those are two physiologic places where people often kind of get confused. Like if you haven't eaten enough throughout the day, or maybe over a course of a couple days, and yet you're full, but you're still not satisfied. Or basically you're not letting yourself have what you want, whether you ate enough calories or not, but you're kind of making yourself eat foods that you think you should. And then you get full, and then you're wondering, like, why am I still hungry? Or why am I still thinking about food? Why am I staring at the ice cream when I'm full? Oh, well, it's because I wanted ice cream like 2 days ago and I didn't give it to myself yet. So make room in your life right now within your hunger and fullness to have those foods. So it's like you don't find yourself in that situation anymore. So that's where full permission comes in and fixes some of that. The other part, physically full, is that you want to decode a little bit, because sometimes we're physically full and we can be full of emotion. And if that might be what's happening. And so if it is, check that out. Because sometimes we have habits, and I'm not saying habits are terrible. I mean, there are people who have habits, like I have ice cream. My dad eats ice cream like almost every night. I'm almost 40. I've seen him eat ice cream like every day that I've ever been around him. That's just kind of what he likes. That's what he eats. He eats his bowl of vanilla ice cream with popcorn or without popcorn. It just depends. That's kind of a habit. I think if it wasn't there, but he wouldn't freak out. He wouldn't think that he's not getting his emotional needs met, but sometimes things are just habitual. That's kind of what you do. That doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but if that's something you still really like to do, you know, this is all about us being like the grown-ups of our lives and not the diet industry, not our doctors, not our family. It's like, well, what style of eating makes me feel the most satisfied? And so if you're finding you're physically full but still craving food, again, it's like, I like to eat that food at the end of the day. That I like that habit. Okay, it's not a problem. But if it's a habit out of, this is just what I do, this is how I like comfort myself, this is how I transition from like work to home, this is the only way I give myself permission to have a break or have something pleasurable or fun, you want to check that out, because there might be times you don't actually want the food, but this is the only way that you know how to give yourself permission to have the sweet in your life. Or when I say sweet in your life, not just sweet with food, but like, oh, this is my only pleasure. And maybe what you're really wanting is like a lunch break outside, or to meet up for coffee with a friend, or to go to a movie you really want to go to, or buy yourself a new lip gloss or something. Just simple pleasure sometimes people really withhold from themselves. And then it turns into, the only way I get it is by having my ice cream every night, because that's the only time in my day that I do something for myself, or I have what I really want, or I'm doing what I really want to do. So check that stuff out. The other time I think that people, you know, I'm physically feeling full a couple of times. Two more examples, and hopefully this is helpful. You can be physically full, especially if you have a history of some binge eating, emotional eating, and you still are craving food. I would want you to look at like the quality. And this is a much more, the stuff that I do in my one-on-one work with people is, you know, help them figure out like what their cravings mean. So you can, I did a little bit of it just now, but get really to the heart of it if you're feeling stuck with it. So if you're feeling stuck and you can't figure it out, you know, you can message me. And here, I'm going to also down below have like you can schedule like a free call just to see if that's actually your issue with learning how to have some of these cravings go away when you're full. So if you need some more help with that, I can do that. I can help you. But and the sooner you do it, you know, the better you can move on to the next phase of stuff. So anyway, but you know, sometimes when there's cravings for food, again, we're just we're trying to get a need met. We're not trying to hurt ourselves, destroy ourselves. It's always about self-care. It's always about trying to caretake. And so we want to figure out some other strategies for caretaking. Because that's all you're trying to do when you're legitimately, you've eaten enough food that day, you're not at any kind of deficit, you are tuning into what you want and you need, and you still let yourself have it anyway. So let's say you ate everything you wanted to a whole day long, and now it's the evening and you're full, and you still want to sit down with a box of Crunch and Munch. That means something. It could be habit, but sometimes it's deeper. There's something about that food and the textures and the taste and what it feels like going down and the associations, that once you get to the bottom of it, it's like, oh, like I'm just not getting enough of XYZ detailed things that I need to like not have Crunch and Munch be the only way I get that. So that could be a reason we're craving food when we're physically full. So, you know, habituation is important, which is like having enough of what you want. Eating enough food is really important. So if you're doing any like careful eating or any kind of just even very minimal under eating, you could be full but still need calories. The other thing I would think of if you're watching this video and you are under your set point, you can feel full, but you still need more food to help your body get to where it needs to be. And so I know that's a harder one too, because sometimes, I'm always telling my clients, like, you can't always rely on hunger fullness signals, if you're at a deficit and you've been at a deficit for a while, and that's where intuitive eating isn't always helpful for people at the beginning. If you've got a long-term deficit going on, or lots of behaviors of binging and purging, or whatever you're doing, that takes some mechanical eating to be able to eventually, get to intuitive eating. And so that might be something that we need to talk about as well, is like, you might feel fullness. It might be real food fullness. It might be emotional fullness. Could be your nervous system's all dysregulated, and you're having lots of sensation that you're not sure what that is. So those are all things that are worth your time and effort to like start to look through. Again, if you need help with that, let me know, and I'll be happy to. But these are some of the ways that people crave food when they're physically full. If this video was helpful for you, please, thumbs up or hearts, or ask me questions, because I'd be happy to get more in depth with you if you like. And till next time, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.